Please can I welcome onto the stage Shamina Singh, who is the founder and president for the Mastercard Center for Inclusive Growth. And joining us by Zoom, we also have Jeffrey Sachs, the president of the Sustainable Development Solutions Network and a professor at Columbia University. Shamina, welcome. Now, hopefully we have Jeffrey on the Zoom screen somewhere. This is the moment where we sit and wait for some magic to happen. Jeffrey, hello, can you hear us? Jeffrey, can you hear us? Oh dear, I suspect the answer is no. We've got you. Jeffrey, welcome. Yes, we can see you as well. Can you see us? Excellent. So we're here to talk about accelerating progress towards Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, and particularly to talk about that through data and financial inclusion. The two of you work in kind of different ways at different institutions towards advancing Sustainable Development Goals. So I would love to just start by asking you what work you do on this. Shamina, maybe we could start with you.
Sure, and thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor and a pleasure to be here. I want to specifically thank Her Excellency, the Minister for Sustainable Development, and the entire team, including her Assistant Undersecretary, Donna. They have made a tremendous event here, the Economic Development Board and other partners of the forum. So I run something called the Mastercard Center for Inclusive Growth, which is the social impact hub of Mastercard. And the connection to the Sustainable Development Goals is that we have developed a model where we leverage the assets of private sector companies like Mastercard in service of people and the planet. And that sounds kind of theoretical, but in practical terms, what it means is when you have a company like Mastercard who's active in 210 markets with 3 billion cardholders on the network and 100 million merchants and businesses, the power to leverage data, technology, your network, your people, your capital, the expertise across the entire network, all in service of humanity through things like financial inclusion, and planet through things like the Priceless Planet Coalition and sustainability, becomes change at scale.
Thank you very much. Jeffrey, could I pose the same question to you?
Of course. First, let me apologize for not being very first out. It was absolutely the goal, but the flight got sprung at the last moment yesterday, and now, so I was speaking from nearby, fortunately not together with you. I work at the United Nations and in the global university system. I lead for the Secretary General of the United this is the huge challenge. Just to say at a diplomatic and a global policy level, we have several major meetings coming up. For example, in Azerbaijan, in Baku, in November, the so-called COP29, or the climate conference. And then next year, mid-year, in Madrid, the Financing for Development Summit. We aim to turn the corner so that we can actually make breakthroughs on what we're doing. We're not getting the financing to the environmental solutions, but we are still getting a lot of investment in fossil fuels, a lot of investment in the things that are hurting the environment. And we know that the climate crisis is almost spinning out of control. And in the meantime, I don't have to belabor the point that the geopolitical crisis is getting worse, so that we're spending time destroying things and not cooperating while we should be urgently addressing this sustainable development challenge. So that's the basic frame, and I spend a lot of my time taking meetings diplomatically, trying to help put this agenda at the highest level and trying to help solve some of these other problems that are so nasty and so destructive that we're in one of those right now.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. And I think, you know, we can all sign up to the kind of broad framework of these goals, kind of environmental protection, kind of growth that includes social justice. But let's get on to some more kind of concrete things. Shamina, can I ask you, what are the particular sustainable development goals that fintechs are well suited to tackling, and which are the particular ones you think they should be tackling?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it's one that solves a lot of the issues around the Sustainable Development Goals. One, I'm a big admirer of Dr. Sachs, so to have him here, even virtually, is a great honor. So thank you, sir, for everything that you do. I think for fintechs in particular, when thinking about the Sustainable Development Goals, these are not goals that are somehow out of the ordinary. As you heard the professor say, this is about water. This is about financial inclusion. This is about income equity. This is about gender equity. These are about ways of the world should work, right? So if you're a fintech, and what I love about fintechs, frankly, is that they're so agile, they're so nimble, they're so responsive to the moment, then you're responding as a business leader in the moment of what's possible. You understand where the cracks are in the system that a fintech can immediately go in and fix. And so from my perspective, sitting where I am at Mastercard, we are very conscious and very grateful for all of the work we do with fintech, specifically around the notion of income equity, digitization, data equity, the work around technology. These are all places where fintechs are currently playing, financial services obviously. But the interesting thing here is, and the reason why I'm here instead of New York, as the professor mentioned, we are coming out of the UN General Assembly week, is what's unique for this region and what's unique for this moment, especially in Bahrain, where I've had the privilege of spending a little bit of time these past few days, is that there is there's something called data embassies. I'm sure you all know about this much better than I do, but this notion that you have privacy around your data, that data is sovereign, that there is transparency for your data in Bahrain is enormously important. And it allows, I think, not only this country, but the region to realize their vision of, frankly, moving beyond oil and recognizing that actually data is the new currency. And that, to me, is the highest sustainable transition of all.
Thank you very much. That's a really good point. Jeffrey, could I pose you a similar question? Seating from your vantage point, what are the sustainable development goals you would most like kind of financial services in general to be pursuing? I think we have you back now. Cheers. Did you hear my question? So I was going to ask, sitting from your vantage point, what are the sustainable development goals you'd most like to see the financial services sector pursuing?
Well, let me say that financial services includes multiple dimensions. One is for households to ensure that households are connected to basic services, to healthcare, to education, to payments, and so forth. So the household level is extraordinarily important. If you regard this in low-income settings, this is a great leapfrog opportunity. A poor country that doesn't have a physical banking system can have a virtual payment system very, very quickly. And so this is something that I work on quite a bit in very low-income countries. In sub-Saharan Africa, for example, there's tremendous leapfrogging opportunities. India has gone completely, of course, online now to the local vegetable vendor in the rural areas. So this is a tremendous boost. And I would like to see the applications in healthcare access, in educational, online access. There are many, many things that can be done. At the level of the financial center or financial system, the key is to finance the environmental transformations at a large scale. We need massive investments, and everybody understands now this is trillions of dollars per year in renewable energy or in zero carbon energy systems. Once again, a basic problem is that while finance is available for high-income countries and upper middle-income countries, it is not available on adequate terms for low-income, low-middle-income countries. So we need financial innovation to enable sovereign powers or utilities in low-income, lower-middle-income countries to break through what is now impossible lack of access to large-scale finance. These countries are not credit-worthy the way the system works right now. They don't have investment-grade credit ratings. They pay enormous premium on the cost of capital. So this is a system-wide or macroeconomic dimension. Since Bahrain is a world financial center, it would play a major role in financing the large-scale environmental goods and infrastructure needed. And that requires innovation of a certain kind as well.
Thank you very much. Now, a lot of what we're talking about here is kind of work that can't be achieved by private enterprise alone. It's achieved through a partnership of the public and private sectors. And Shamina, you sort of brought this up by speaking about the work the Kingdom of Bahrain has done on data sovereignty. You've also spent a lot of your career in public service at the White House and at the House of Representatives. Could I ask you, what is the best version of public-private partnerships working? And I wonder if you have any examples of seeing them work particularly well.
Yeah, it's a great question and a timely one. As the professor mentioned, the financing issue is major, not only for small businesses, but in order to reach climate capacity, we have to think big. And I think when you're thinking big and you're thinking scale, you're thinking government. When you're thinking fast, you're thinking private sector. And so when you think big and you move fast, you've got the best of public and private coming together. I'll give you an example of where that's worked, and specifically where fintechs have played a major role. The professor mentioned India. We have a program going in India right now where we call it Strive, and it's basically focused on ensuring that small business owners have access to three things. They have to go digital, get capital, and get access to networks and know-how. Those are the three things that if you talk to any business owner, they would say they need to succeed. The way that we worked with the US government in India in this instance and a private sector partner was bringing in risk capital, risk financing. We worked with USAID, which is the development agency in the United States, along with the Development Finance Corporation, which is the financing agency, to create a $100 million risk capital pool so that they could de-risk the lending that our partner, HDFC Bank in India, needed in order to lend to specifically women business owners, but also to small business owners who've traditionally not been part of the financial system. Now, fintechs play an enormous role here because they're fast and they're digital and they're moving. So part of the partnership included outreach to populations not traditionally served by traditional finance corporations. I have to say that with that risk capital, with the outreach to small businesses, that, by the way, we, for the first time, used low collateral, no collateral, and redefined collateral lending so that, to the professor's point, the interest rates remained low and market value. I'll just give you a sense of that. In India and in many places for women, gold is a commodity. Gold is the collateral because when they get married, it's just part of the cycle there. So they don't have tractors to bet against collateral. They don't have land to put up necessarily. So we worked with the bank to recognize gold as collateral and to use data to look at spending patterns. And through that program and through others that we've also done in Pakistan and Peru and other places, what we've found is not only did that risk capital pool get fully exhausted, in India in this case, there are about 8,000 small business owners who now receive the lending and the capital, and not one default has taken place in that program to date. And then around the world, what we're seeing with a similar type of approach, we're seeing 40% increase in savings for the accounts that these programs are using. And in most instances, at least 30% increase in capital for the small business. They're on average hiring 2 employees per business once they're part of this program. So this becomes part of a virtuous cycle of the win-win-win when you bring government together for large-scale public financing together with private sector moving quickly along with high tech and high touch.
That's incredibly inspiring, that program. Thank you for telling us about it. Wow, not a single default as well. That's pretty impressive. Do you think, in describing that in kind of the combination of kind of thinking big in the government side and moving quickly, are there kind of particular advantages fintechs have over traditional finance in doing this? You mentioned, or Jeffrey mentioned earlier, leapfrogging. Yeah. But what are the ways in which the fintech sector is particularly well positioned?
Look, I think that it's not necessarily over or under, they're complementary, right? So again, the trick is not only for the SDGs, but also for fintechs, for public and private, to always figure out what's the win-win-win, what's the complementarity of all pieces of the puzzle, again, in service of people and the planet. Because what I'm not here to do is tell you as a business leader and a fintech CEO that you need to be exclusively thinking in some way that is about only the good, which precludes your ability to create and make profit. The truth is these things are complementary. If you think about Mastercard as another example, the business strategy for Mastercard is digitization. And Mastercard in some respects is a massive fintech. So in our journey to digitization and understanding that the world is moving in that direction, we worked with our shareholders to say the runway for Mastercard is not necessarily by competing with other competitors or even with fintechs. The runway for Mastercard and for everybody is to realize that the population and the power of digital and data and AI is the thing we can all work on together, as long as we recognize that we are all in this together through partnership, which, by the way, is the 17th Sustainable Development Goal through partnership. And so that is really the magic unlock for any of this working.
Thank you very much. Jeffrey, could I ask you a similar question about whether you have any kind of particular examples of, whether it's through public-private partnerships or firms pursuing sustainable development goals, what you've seen that you really like and think is inspiring?
Well, let me first congratulate the committee on this India case, because this is phenomenal. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, good. This is really state-of-the-art and incredibly impactful. India, of course, is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. It's a massive economy. It will be a pace setter for the world, and it's exactly this kind of innovation that is extraordinary. And I think what is so remarkable about it is it would not have happened just through market forces alone. It took ingenuity to say, here are the pieces that can make things work, but it's not contrary to the market. Quite the opposite. It's new.
Oh dear. Let's see if that resolves itself in the next couple of seconds. If not, I'll come back to you, Shamina. Jeffrey, if you can hear me, we lost you there. Could you go a few sentences back?
For example, this question was, how do you make it a small
Shamina, perhaps I better come back to you, and we'll hope to get Jeffrey back shortly. You talked about a very inspiring example there of work in India to extend risk capital. Jeffrey, we've got you back. Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us? Not at all. We can hear you. If you perhaps turn your video off, we might get your sound. We can hear you if you'd like to carry on. Thank you, Jeffrey. You've brought us on to our kind of final topic, which is we've heard some very inspiring examples here and talked about the Sustainable Development Goals that we should be pursuing. Shamina, can I ask you, when you look at this, what do you see as the major blockers for both private companies and governments in pursuing these goals? What are the biggest obstacles they need to overcome?
Well, I have not seen that here, but generally speaking, the rate of speed and I'll be quite frank, there's a trust issue, I think, as well, and I think there's a trust issue between public and private, and I think that there is a trust issue sometimes within the system. And so you and I are sitting here and we're developing a relationship, and we can talk about things, we can do things together. Something breaks down when people retreat to their sector. So you think of public with a capital P and private with a capital P, and all of a sudden, public sector starts to see private sector and as pure profit motive at the expense of humanity. Private sector starts to look at public sector as all regulation, all saying no, all risk averse. And so something happens when people retreat into sector. And so I think that the biggest blocker, but also the biggest area of opportunity, is disrupting the barrier between public and private. To say, just like we need things like blended finance, we need to make sure that we don't get trapped in our sectors, we don't get trapped in our identities, but we actually unleash and unlock the possible. And that, to me, is not only the biggest barrier, but it's also the biggest opportunity.
It's making sure that public-private collaboration actually works and continues to work when you're not just when you're around the table together.
Not when you're just around the table together, but actually ensuring that you are around the table together and that you remember to approach each other as human beings, and remember that the public sector is the collective of people, private sector is a collective of people. At least it is so far. Let's see where AI takes us. But right now, it's still people running both sides. And to remember that our common humanity is the thing that matters most.
Thank you very much. Jeffrey, if we've still got you, could I ask what you see as the kind of the biggest blockers to progress on Sustainable Development Goals? I feel... Yes, we've got you. Yes, we've got you. Thank you very much, Jeffrey. Thank you, Jeffrey. We have time for just a couple of questions from the audience, if anyone has something burning they'd like to ask the panelists. I think we have one in the front row of the red block over there, if we can get a mic over there.
Thank you. Christina Yan Zhang from the Metaverse Institute. We are really excited to see lots of initiative to talk about public-private partnership. But we also know we have 8 billion population of people in the world. So do you think there will be any opportunities we can use the decentralized nature of frontier technology, for example, blockchain, especially tokenization, to support government worldwide to coming together to attract more investments into major technology like nuclear fusion? Because we know nuclear fusion is the ultimate solution to create unlimited clean electricity that can power our whole planet up to another 100,000 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. Shamina, maybe I could come to you. How do you see the role of blockchain? And
let me defer to the professor while we have him. So
yeah. Oh yes, we do. Wonderful. Jeffrey, perhaps we can come to you.
Let me say, my own view is that the fusion, if and when it comes, and blockchain are two completely different things. So I would not link those two in this context. Let me add that we actually have technologies already that can provide us with a safe and of course fusion. It turns out that would be an added advantage. But in context, the use of technology depends on the application, and the question of energy systems, to some extent can use decentralized layer technologies, but really these are integrated grids that have their own logic and scale. So it's a very good question, but I'm not going to put those two categories together.
Thanks very much. I'm afraid that leaves us out of time. So all that remains is for me to say thank you to both of you. Jeffrey, thank you so much for persevering through our own digital problems. Shamina, I think you had a plug for a competition that you're judging later on today.
Yes, so as part of our engagement with this fabulous forum, we have launched the Mastercard Challenge for students in Bahrain. And this afternoon, I'll be judging, I think with the professor, the finalists of that challenge competition. And I really hope that you all come and listen to that, because you will hear and see that innovation is right here at home in Bahrain. And the thoughts and the brainstorming that these students have done around this challenge are quite literally mind-blowing. So I really look forward, hope you will come back and participate in the Mastercard Challenge for the students, the finalists.
Thank you, and thank you so much, Jeffrey and Shamina, for a lovely panel.